Hello everyone, I'm Shawn Carey with Migration Productions. Welcome and thanks again for tuning in to our Exploring the Natural World YouTube series. Today's video was actually recorded in the summer of 2019 before the global pandemic hit, which is why in the second half of this video you're going to see me sitting next to my good friend Christopher Ciccone, and we're not wearing any face coverings. You know, I've been holding off on posting this video and now seemed like a good time to show you my chat with my friend Christopher and our topic about hats, although really it's a lot more than just that. We will take a lighthearted look at some of the hats we use while photographing wildlife in Tanzania and some of the hats that we use here in Massachusetts and beyond as wildlife photographers. Now, while the title of today's video is hats, we aren't just going to be discussing proper birding headwear. In this video, I'll be taking the opportunity to pass along some information about a few organizations that I believe are helping to make a difference in protecting wildlife, wildlife habitats, and promoting wildlife conservation. As you'll know if you've watched any of my other videos, I'm very passionate about wildlife and land conservation. In my opinion, the two do go very much hand in hand. I take active steps to help wildlife prosper here in Massachusetts and beyond, and do what I can to promote conservation wherever there's flora and fauna to be preserved. With that in mind, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you do, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos here on Exploring the Natural World. As always, please remember, help protect wildlife and help protect wild places. Cheers. Today's episode is going to be another one of those offbeat topics, and of all things, we're going to talk about hats. Yes, hats. Why hats? Well, everyone owns a lot of hats. I own a lot of hats, and I'm kind of a hat connoisseur. Is it possible to be a hat connoisseur? So here's the thing about hats, and baseball caps in particular, and this is my go-to baseball cap. This is my Cape Cod hat. You can see Cape Cod up here. This hat I bought at Moby Dick's gift shop and restaurant down in Wellfleet. And if you're ever on the outer part of the Cape and you're looking for a casual place to either have dinner or lunch, I recommend Moby Dick. So back to my hat, back to my go-to hat. The thing about go-to hats is at a certain point, the front part of the hat starts to fray a little bit, and you've got to look to kind of turn that hat in and get a new one. So your kind of go-to hat changes from year to year. But for now, this is my go-to hat, and I'm hoping to use it a little bit longer. As far as other hats are concerned, this is my Massachusetts Audubon Society hat, which, by the way, we're recording today here at the Massachusetts Audubon Society's Daniel Webster Wildlife Sanctuary in Marshfield, Massachusetts. This is one of my favorite sanctuaries here in the state. I spent a lot of time photographing here, birding. This is really just a fabulous location. There's about 550 acres here. In fact, I plan on doing another episode specifically on Daniel Webster Wildlife Sanctuary at some point, so let's tune in for that. I've been a longtime member of Mass Audubon. I'm a big supporter of the organization, and I'm on the advisory council statewide for Massachusetts Audubon. I'm also on the advisory council for the Museum of American Bird Art in Canton, Massachusetts, which is a Mass Audubon property, so really a great organization. Keep in mind, Mass Audubon is the largest nonprofit landowner here in the state of Massachusetts. They own about 38,000 acres here in the state. They also have 59 wildlife sanctuaries throughout the state, so kind of almost anywhere you travel in the state, you can probably find an Audubon sanctuary somewhere. They run fabulous programs throughout the year, children's programs as well, day camps in the summer. I can't say enough good things about Mass Audubon. If you are not a member, I would encourage you to do so, and I will leave the link below. So on to my next hat. This is my Hawk Mountain hat. I always have a Hawk Mountain hat. I've been visiting Hawk Mountain Sanctuary in Pennsylvania for over 20 years. The interesting thing about Hawk Mountain, for those that aren't familiar with it, it was founded in 1934. It's the oldest sanctuary for raptor conservation in the world. They've been doing raptor counts there at Hawk Mountain Sanctuary longer than any place else in the world. It's a fabulous place to visit if you've never been. South Lookout, the North Lookout, the views are spectacular. I typically spend my time when I go there on the North Lookout. I like to go kind of mid to late October because that's the best time typically to see golden eagles as they're coming through. If you're lucky enough to be there just after a front has gone through, the hawk watching is really just unbelievable. From the North Lookout, many times you're actually looking down at the hawks as they're going by as opposed to looking up. The view, like I said, is just spectacular. Late fall is great. They do have a speaker series in the fall, so you can hear guest speakers that come in there to give lectures. I've actually given talks at Hawk Mountain several times over the years. If you've never been to Hawk Mountain, I recommend going. We'll leave the link below for that as well. And think about becoming a member and supporting Hawk Mountain Sanctuary. The other thing about this particular hat is I will tell you that in 2017, I did a photo safari to Tanzania, and I had my old Hawk Mountain hat, very similar to this one, that I wore, and it was kind of my lucky hat in Tanzania, and I wore this hat again to Tanzania when I was there in January in 2019, which leads me into my next hat, my Nasera Safari baseball cap. Nasera Safaris is the company that we use to handle all our logistics and planning in Tanzania for both the safaris that I did in 2017 and most recently in 2019. Just a really good outfit. I highly recommend them. If you've never been to East Africa or Tanzania specifically, I can't stress enough how much you should go and see and photograph the wildlife there. It's just unbelievable. If you've never seen, up close and personal, an elephant or a lion, giraffe, cheetahs, hippos, I mean, it really is just something to see that wildlife up close and personal. So you should seriously think about going. And the Nasera Safari specifically, like I said, they handle all our in-country logistics. And just a little bit about Nasera Safari. So our senior guide for our 2017 trip was a gentleman named Joseph Dunguru. Joseph worked at Ngorongoro Crater for many years in Tanzania. It was just a real joy to have him as our senior guide. In fact, I'm going to be doing an episode coming up specifically on Joseph in an interview we did with him at Ngorongoro Crater, so you can look for that one. But our driver guides for our first trip was another gentleman named Joseph, who was quite a bit younger. We called him Joseph Jr. And Abu. These guys were great. Real good sense of humor, very knowledgeable. These guys were just a real joy to be around. And by the way, when you're in Tanzania, all the lodging is just first rate. The food is very good. Like I said, the logistics, the planning, everything is just incredible. You should really think about going to Tanzania and seeing it for yourself firsthand. So here's the thing. I want to tie in kind of the next section of this about other hats and about hats that I specifically wear when I'm photographing wildlife, because I have different hats for that. And for that section, I'm actually going to bring in my good friend, fellow wildlife photographer, Christopher Ciccone, for this next segment, because we're going to talk about some of the hats that we wear when we're out photographing. In this case, one of the hats that we were wearing when we were on safari in Tanzania. Hey everyone, we're back, and I've got my good friend Christopher Ciccone.
Hello.
Christopher and I have been very good friends for quite a while.
Number of years.
We're both wildlife photographers, avid birders.
Yep.
We're both longtime members of the Brookline Bird Club here in the Boston area.
Right.
If you're not familiar with the Brookline Bird Club, we'll leave the link below. The Brookline Bird Club runs bird walks throughout the year.
Yep.
Programs 3 times a year, I think it is.
A couple times a year. Yep.
Yep. Great organization, highly recommend it. Just a good bird club here in the area.
Yep.
We're not here just to talk about the Brookline Bird Club, even though it's a great organization.
Right.
What we're here to talk about are hats.
Hats.
Okay. And specifically right now, what I want to talk about is the hats that I wear and that you wear while we're photographing. And for me, I have several hats that are kind of like this.
Yep.
And they work well in some ways, and in other ways they don't. While they work well is that for me, it's a lightweight hat.
Yep.
It's got this nice brim all the way around, keeps the sun off you.
Right. Good point.
This one has this buzz-off repellent in it. Whether or not it works, who knows? Yeah. Anyway. So, but the thing about this hat is that the front part of it, well, all around really, it's too flimsy. So when it's windy, like it's windy today,
Right.
and we live in Massachusetts, we spend a lot of time on the coast photographing.
Where it's breezy and
It's
windy.
right. This just flops too much in the wind.
And when you're photographing, it's a distraction. You don't want to have that.
It's a pain
in your
in the
peripheral
ass.
vision as you're looking through the viewfinder, having this flopping going on.
It's a pain in the ass.
It just doesn't work very well.
So, I like the hat, but in some cases...
Great for birding, not great for bird photography.
Okay. So another hat that I looked into for my 2017 photo safari to Tanzania was a Tilly hat.
Yep.
Okay? And this is my Tilly hat. Famous Tilly hat,
Famous
right?
Tilly hats. All the birders know about Tilly hats. They've been making great hats for many, many years now.
Yeah, so if you're a birder and you get your birder card, right, I think they issue a Tilly hat, right? Yeah. It's a good hat, don't get me wrong. Right. And I like this hat. So this hat it's a comfortable hat. I think it's a good looking hat.
Yep.
It worked very well for most circumstances when I'm photographing, but it has the same problem that the other hat has, where it's just a little too flimsy or floppy in the front when the wind blows.
It's a little stiffer, but still.
It's just not quite what I want. But again, it's a good hat, but I wish it just had something that was a little bit firmer there. Yeah. So that's the deal with the Tilly hat. Yep. So before we get into talking about the safari hats, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Christopher Ciccone hats. Because Christopher Ciccone is known for his hats. Specifically this hat that he's wearing right now, which, by the way, very stylish hat.
Thank you.
So what is the deal with this particular hat?
So this particular hat I wear most of the year. This one is actually made by a South African company called Rogue. They make a lot of safari style hats and clothing and stuff like that. It's a leather hat. It's got a little bit of weight to it, nice and stiff. I wear this in the fall, in the spring,
This is your go-to hat.
This is my go-to hat.
Yeah.
I walk out the door, I pick this hat up, I put it on, and I walk out the door. So this is the hat I wear most days.
And by the way, I dare say, if you weren't wearing a hat like that no one would recognize
Nobody
you.
would recognize me.
They would go, who is that guy?
I've been told that, literally, quote, I did not recognize you without a hat on.
Yeah.
So if I don't have a hat on, people don't know what's going on.
And I've said this before, if you were wearing a baseball cap, which I rarely see you in one, if you were wearing a baseball cap for any prolonged period of time, you might burst into flames. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there.
I don't wear baseball hats that often. I have many, but I don't wear them.
All right, so what about this other hat?
All right, so this other hat that I have with me, so like I said, I wear this one in the spring, fall, a little bit in the winter, and then in the summertime. Once it starts getting a little bit hotter, I move on to another hat. This one's made by Barma in Australia. Again, similar with the leather, but you'll notice it's got the mesh on
I like
the
this.
side.
This is very well vented.
This is a very well vented hat. It's much, much cooler. It's a nice fitting hat. It does have a little bit of vibration in it, but it's a good everyday sort of hat. Good sized brim, keeps the sun off you.
And again, very stylish. It is a Christopher Ciccone hat, I must say.
It's my style.
It's
I don't
your
know if
style.
it's stylish, but it's my style.
No, stylish. It's definitely stylish. Safari hats. All right, so here's the segue. So Christopher, myself, our good friend Dr. Carl, our good friend Mike Militia and his wife Ann, we all go to Tanzania January 2019 for a photo safari. Prior to leaving for that trip, I was on the lookout. I had to find what I would hope would be a better hat. A hat that would do really more what I want for photo safari. So in my Facebook feed, I'm getting these different ads on different hats, and I see an ad for both of these hats. But this particular hat, which you ended up wearing, why don't you talk about this hat?
So this one's called, it's made by a company called Shape Flexor. It's a nice, it's got a good weight to it. It feels good, it feels stiff, but the brim is very, very stiff and shapeable.
None of that floppy action.
None of that floppy action. You could be in the rain in a rainstorm in this, and the rain could be pouring down off of this thing, and that doesn't go anywhere. It stays nice and stiff. You'll notice it's also got the mesh side panels, so very nice.
Well vented.
For the heat, well vented. It's also got things like a little zipper, so you can open it up if you need a little more space. It's got a way of adjusting the tightness on it, so you can get it nice and stiff. If you want, some people like having the extra little bit of protection for your neck, so it's got a little.
That's a nice feature, and I have something similar to that where you can pull it off on the neck.
Back in here. It was a very good safari hat. You can shape it and do whatever you want with it. A little big on the brim.
But you know what? That does a good job keeping the sun off.
But it keeps the sun off. So when you're someplace like a tropical area, along the equator, Tanzania, in Costa Rica, something like that, and you're going to be out in the sun all day, this is going to keep your head, your neck, your face.
Yeah, and so what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to run this B-roll of you and I in the safari vehicle. The vehicle's going, 30 miles an hour or more, whatever it is. And you're going to see both of our hats here that they're not flopping in the wind.
They're not whipping around on you.
The one that I ended up getting was this Shelta hat, a very similar look to some of the other hats I showed you. But again, the difference here is up front, it's this rigid material.
Nice and stiff.
So, exactly. So that when you're wearing it, you don't have to worry about that flopping. And I like this hat, does a good job, kind of checks that box off for me in terms of not having that problem. So for photography, this has become my go-to hat. This works really well. And on safari, again, when we were in Tanzania, which, by the way, if you've never been, again, I got to stress, you have to go. It was incredible. The only thing about this hat is that, and this is a very kind of, I don't want to say a complaint. I think complaint's the wrong word.
No, I think it's a personal
Observation,
preference.
yeah. Is that the front part of the hat here, because I tend to go for these lighter color, these tan colored hats, the front part here gets discolored from sweating.
Yep.
And I think if I had to do it over again, I would get kind of the olive green colored hat of this. Same thing with the tilt. Yeah, it wouldn't show as much. The other observation about this hat, I prefer the venting that you have on yours. I think that does a better job. They could have done a little bit better job venting this hat.
Yep.
If these folks here at Shelta actually made a hat that was better vented, I'd probably buy another one, to be perfectly honest.
Sure.
So that's just an observation. I still like the hat. It's a great hat. This has become my go-to photography hat. So that's it. That's our wrap up on hats. I think we've covered it all.
Yep.
If you like what you saw today, and I hope you do, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in. Look for further episodes moving forward. In fact, Christopher, I'll have you back. We'll talk about some other things moving forward.
Always willing to do it.
As always, please remember, help protect wildlife and help protect wild places. Cheers.